Okay, we are now on to the last part of modeling our self-watering planter, and that is going to be adding a sort of a channel or a slot here in the blue part of the pot so that there's room for it to slide up and down past the chimney to fill the water reservoir. So, this does get a little bit convoluted because we do kind of start pushing up against the edge of what TinkerCAD can comfortably do, but there is a way to do it. So the first thing that we're going to need is some way to cut out this inside piece because we don't need that anymore. And we can do that by copying the chimney. So real quick, I'm going to ungroup these just so I can copy this part. And so again, we're going to Control C, Control V. I'm right off the bat going to turn that red just so it's not in my way. Put it back just to make sure we've got the alignment correct. And then maybe just move it over one. Okay, and then we are going to just regroup our components for the pot. Put all that back together. Okay, and then just turn it off because we don't need it. So this guy, all right. That should be perfectly aligned now. Perfect. So we can turn this into a hole and use it to cut this away. But we're also going to need to make this sort of shell, this sort of barrier to hold the dirt in when it eventually gets filled with dirt. So before I turn that into a hole, I'm going to copy and paste it again and turn it blue so there's no confusion. Realign it, and just like we've been doing this whole time, I am going to Alt drag, make it a little bit bigger, Alt drag, make it a little bit bigger in that dimension, and now we've got that shell. I'm also going to move it down because if we look at this design, it doesn't stick out with the chimney, it's flat with the top. So we'll just go ahead and make it flat there. Now, this guy can turn back into a hole. We can box select everything and group. So now we've successfully made this sort of inner wall, but we've got all this extra stuff. Obviously this can't go here because that's the volume occupied by the chimney. So what needs to happen is, if you remember our original shape that was made of the cylinder, the cone, and another cylinder, we basically need everything outside of that shape to be just cut away, to be deleted. And we can do that by making a hole, of course. But the easiest way to get a perfect hole is to copy that original cylinder, cone cylinder shape. And so we're going to do that real quick. And this might not be making sense just yet, but I think you'll see what I mean when we do it. So if you recall, no matter how many times you group something in TinkerCAD, you can also ungroup it. So we are going to, whoops, not ungroup yet. We are going to, as per usual, copy paste this and move it out of the way. And we're going to start ungrouping and getting rid of the stuff we don't need. Because remember, we're just trying to get back down to the original primitives that we had. And depending on, you know, the complexity of what you made, might make sense to just go ahead and make it again from scratch, but this will just guarantee it's a perfect match. Okay, so I have gone back to our original cylinder, cone, cylinder, just very basic primitive. Now, we need to make something so that everything outside of this can be turned into a hole. And we're going to do that with a cube. So I'm just going to place this on the ground and make this cover the entire shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we just want to make sure it will cover the whole funnel thing. And then, of course, we will make it tall. All right, and maybe a little wider in this dimension. Now we're going to turn this into a hole and join these guys. And what we're left with is essentially a negative of this. So now we are just going to realign this as carefully as possible. I think that's right. Okay. And then we're going to turn this into a hole. And as you can see, everything that falls outside of that original funnel shape is going to get cut away, which is exactly what we want to happen because we don't need any of this. So we will shift click the pot and group it with this big hole. Give it a second, and there you have it. So if we unhide our pot, we now have the completed pot assembly. We've got this inner piece that holds the soil, and then we have the outer container with the little chimney and the water reservoir. So this should be perfectly 3D printable. As you can see, you know, the footprint of it is kind of falling outside of the bed area, and it's pretty much taking up the whole bed. So if we're a little concerned about that, you know, you could just rotate it, move it around a little, and that actually should print just fine. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope this has you excited about being able to make your own things, and that you are off to a good start with 3D printing.